Have you ever asked yourself why love, real love, seems to vanish the moment you need it most? Not casual attention, not surface-level compliments. I mean that deep, anchoring kind of love that makes your nervous system finally relax, that makes you feel chosen. You do everything you're supposed to. You show up, you listen, you care, you wait, you forgive. But somehow, always, you're the one left behind. You're the one staring at the empty chair, the unread message, the cooling silence. And it's not just once. It's a pattern. It's a loop. It's your life on repeat. You try to explain it away. Maybe you loved too much. Maybe you scared them. Maybe they just weren't ready. But eventually, the questions stop being about them. They become about you. Why am I always the one who gives more? Why do I fall for people who can't love me back? Is there something wrong with me? You've probably blamed yourself. You've probably rewritten every conversation in your head 100 times. You've probably tried to change, be less intense, less emotional, less needy. And yet the same story unfolds, again and again, just with a different face. But what if I told you that the reason love keeps collapsing around you is not because you're unlovable, it's because you're unavailable. Not in the way others think, but in a deeper, more dangerous way. You're unavailable to yourself. See, Carl Jung believed that we don't just crave connection. We project parts of ourselves we've lost, our fire, our confidence, our capacity to feel whole, onto others. We don't just fall in love. We outsource parts of our soul and call it chemistry. You chase them because you're trying to reclaim what you abandoned inside yourself. And the more you chase, the more disconnected you become from your center, from your silence, from your truth. You think what you want is love, but what you really want is to stop feeling like you're disappearing every time someone leaves. You're not afraid of being alone. You're afraid of being alone with that voice that says, you're only worthy if someone picks you. You've become addicted to proving your worth, to rescuing, to fixing, to earning a place in someone else's life, even when they never earned a place in yours. That's not love. That's abandonment dressed as devotion. And here's the brutal truth. As long as you keep showing up for people who don't see you, you'll keep disappearing to yourself. You can't be found if you're always running. And the chase, this endless, exhausting chase, has a cost. Every time you abandon your boundaries to feel wanted, every time you silence your needs to keep the peace, every time you accept crumbs and call it a meal, you teach your nervous system one thing: I don't matter. But something in you is starting to wake up. That soft rebellion, that whisper that says, what if I stopped trying? What if love isn't something to chase? What if it's something you attract when you return to yourself? Not the self you show others, not the self that performs, but the one you've buried under all the pleasing, fixing, adapting. That's where this begins, not with another relationship, but with an ending, the end of chasing, the end of shrinking, the end of betraying yourself in exchange for half-hearted affection. Because when you finally stop chasing love, everything finds you. You've probably been told your whole life that love is earned, that you have to prove yourself, be better, be useful, be the one who never complains, be the one who always stays. So you learned to smile when you wanted to scream. You learned to help others while drowning silently yourself. You became the caretaker, the fixer, the one who gives and gives until there's nothing left. But beneath all that kindness was a quiet, aching need to be loved back. Not just seen, not just thanked, but truly chosen. And so you shaped yourself around what others needed until you forgot what you needed. Carl Jung called this the persona, the social mask we wear to survive, a role we adopt to be accepted. The problem is, if you wear the mask too long, you forget there's a face underneath. You begin to believe the role is you. And when people love the mask, you feel more alone than ever. Because they don't see you. They see the version of you that makes them feel safe, admired, cared for. And the worst part? You keep showing up like that because the part of you that's terrified of being rejected believes, if I stop giving, I'll be forgotten. So you overextend, you overfunction, you overlove. You answer messages immediately, even when you're exhausted. You say, it's okay, when it's not. You give second, third, 10th chances to people who have no intention of growing. Not because you're weak, but because you think love is something you earn by disappearing. But here's the truth Jung wanted us to see. Love that requires you to abandon yourself is not love. It's dependency in disguise. You're not addicted to love. You're addicted to being needed, because it gives you a sense of worth you never learned to feel on your own. You confuse peace with silence, affection with obligation, presence with proximity. But real love? It doesn't demand your self-sacrifice. It invites your truth, and that scares you, because being seen without the mask means they might leave. But here's the paradox. They already leave. And every time they do, it's not the real you they walked away from. They never even met you. So now you're left grieving a version of yourself you created to feel safe, but ended up feeling invisible. And maybe that's why you're here. Because something inside you is tired. Tired of smiling while empty. Tired of giving while breaking. Tired of saying yes while screaming no. This is not who you really are. You were not born to serve everyone else's story. You were meant to remember your own. But to do that, you have to let go of the version of you that was built on fear. The version that begs for scraps and calls it love. You have to mourn the self you created to survive, so the one who came here to live can finally emerge. That self isn't desperate. That self doesn't chase. That self doesn't tolerate emotional starvation just to feel worthy. That self knows what finds you when you're whole is real, and it stays. You think you're searching for love, but what if you're just running from yourself? Every time you reach out to someone who makes you feel seen for a moment, you hand them the key to your soul before they've earned the right to hold your hand. You feel anxious when they pull away, even if you barely knew them. You replay conversations, interpret silences, overanalyze tone. Why? Because your nervous system is wired to panic when love feels uncertain. But here's the truth. Love was never uncertain. Your idea of it was. You were taught to chase it, to prove you're worthy of it, to perform and serve and sacrifice until someone says, now you deserve it. And what does chasing cost you? Time, energy, sanity, self-worth. But the worst thing it costs you is your connection to your own inner knowing. That small voice that whispers, this isn't love, this is fear. That voice you've silenced for years, so you can keep pretending the scraps are enough. Because it's easier to chase someone unavailable than to sit with the terrifying possibility that you have been unavailable to your own heart all along. And you wonder why nothing feels stable, why love turns cold, why they lose interest the moment you show your soul. It's not because you're too much, it's because you're showing up from a place of self-rejection and hoping they'll love you into healing. But nobody can do that for you. They're not your healer. They're not your missing piece. They're a mirror. And until you face what you see, you'll keep choosing people who reflect your lack of worth back at you. That's not love. That's a loop. And you've been stuck in it long enough. You don't need another relationship. You need a rebirth. If this is making sense to you, if you feel like something inside is cracking open right now, you're not alone. You were never alone. Subscribe, not just to this channel, but to your own healing, to your own truth. Let's keep walking, back to the pain. You think you're losing them, but what you're really losing is the version of yourself you used to beg for love. And that's a good thing, because for the first time, you're starting to feel the emptiness behind the performance. You're starting to recognize the exhaustion behind the smile, the silence behind your constant support, the resentment you swallowed for years, thinking that's what love required. But love doesn't require your disappearance. Love requires your presence. And you cannot be present if you're always adjusting, adapting, absorbing everyone else's chaos. You deserve a love that doesn't confuse your trauma with compatibility. A love that doesn't test you, that doesn't vanish when you speak your truth, that doesn't punish your emotions. But that kind of love can't find you until you stop hiding from yourself. So here's the invitation Jung would give you. Stop looking out there. Start returning in here. The love you're chasing is just your own soul trying to come home. There's a moment in every soul's life when silence becomes unbearable. Not the silence of a room, but the silence between you and yourself. That moment when you realize you've been living for everyone else's comfort, smiling for their peace, shrinking for their safety, giving for their survival. And somewhere in that performance, you disappeared. That disappearance didn't happen all at once. It happened in small decisions. The sure I'm fine, the you go ahead, the it's no big deal. But it was a big deal. Because every time you chose them over you, you told your nervous system, I don't matter. And now, even when they're gone, you still carry the ache. Because they didn't just leave. They took the version of you that tried to be enough for them. But that version wasn't you. That was your survival self. The one who performs love to avoid abandonment. The one who chases to avoid stillness. The one who clings to people who barely show up because barely still feels better than being alone with your own emptiness. But here's where something changes. Because emptiness isn't the enemy. The silence you fear so much is actually the first language of your soul. It's where truth lives. It's where the unspoken wounds rise up, not to shame you, but to remind you. You've been gone too long. Gone from your needs. Gone from your boundaries. Gone from your inner voice. And this moment, this terrifying, lonely moment, isn't punishment. It's a portal. You see, Jung believed that healing doesn't begin with knowledge. It begins with honesty, not just admitting your pain, but admitting the role you played in recreating it. You didn't deserve to be hurt, but you did keep returning to the ones who couldn't love you, not because you're broken, but because your wound was looking for resolution. You weren't chasing love. You were chasing redemption, trying to prove that you're worthy by getting it right this time. But there is no getting it right with people who never wanted to see you whole. And that's where you take your power back. Not by yelling, not by revenge, not by making them regret, but by no longer needing what they never gave. You reclaim yourself the day you stop chasing people who aren't choosing you. You start to feel it in your body, that lightness, that clarity, that space. It's uncomfortable at first, because chaos was familiar, but soon, peace starts to feel like home. And that's how you know you're healing. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because now you stay with yourself through the pain. You don't run, you don't chase, you sit in the silence, and you start to hear your own voice again. That voice that says, you don't have to beg, you don't have to bend. You are not here to earn love, you are here to remember it. Because real love, the kind that sees you, hears you, holds you, it doesn't need you to disappear first. Healing doesn't feel like a sunrise, it feels like nothing. At first, it's quiet, too quiet, almost disappointing. No applause, no validation, just silence. But slowly, you notice the weight is different. Not gone, just no longer crushing you. You're still grieving. You're still remembering the nights you begged for text messages, the mornings you rewrote your worth based on who showed up. But you're also waking up to something new, the desire to stop apologizing for needing more. You start speaking differently, not louder, clearer. You stop chasing responses. You start noticing who leans in when you stop reaching out. You used to mistake attachment for connection, but now you understand. Connection doesn't demand your erosion. You're beginning to trust something deeper, not the chaos of attraction, but the clarity of resonance. And here's the paradox. The less you chase, the more you attract. Because chasing is born from lack. Presence is born from wholeness. And wholeness is magnetic. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." When you resist your aloneness, you become needy. You attract chaos. You confuse noise for meaning. But when you sit with your solitude, when you walk through the fire of abandonment without abandoning yourself, you begin to glow. You no longer scream, "Choose me." You whisper, "I choose myself." And something shifts in the way the world sees you. People feel it. They can't explain it, but they sense something unshakable in you. You don't need them, but you're open. You're not bitter. You're just not desperate. And that difference is everything. It's what separates the cycles of pain from the seeds of peace. You stop being reactive. You become reflective. You no longer mold yourself to fit into small containers. You expand. And if someone can't meet you there, you no longer shrink to meet them. You bless their path and stay on yours. Because what you're building now, this relationship with yourself, is sacred. It's no longer about being impressive. It's about being true. No longer about being needed, just being. And this energy, this quiet, unapologetic presence, starts calling things in. Not chaos, not tests, but mirrors. People who respect your boundaries because you do. People who value your heart because you no longer trade it for breadcrumbs. Love starts to look different. It's not fireworks. It's a steady flame. It's not anxiety. It's peace. It doesn't rush. It doesn't beg. It holds. And it begins with one decision. Stop proving. Start being. When you finally stop chasing love, you make space for love to find you. Not because you deserve it, not because you earned it, but because you remembered you were never missing anything to begin with. And what finds you will match that knowing. Not your wounds, your worth. You used to believe love was somewhere outside of you. That if you could just say the right things, look the right way, act calm enough, fun enough, soft enough, someone would finally stay. But now you know, you were never too much. You were always just too honest for people who couldn't hold truth. You weren't too sensitive. You were just surrounded by people who couldn't feel. You weren't hard to love. You just kept offering your soul to those who hadn't even met their own. So now you stop offering, not out of bitterness, out of clarity, because what you've been searching for in them has always been waiting inside you. That safety, that stillness, that sense of, I can finally breathe here. It's not something they bring, it's something you remember. You begin to understand what Jung meant when he said, your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. The love that lasts, the kind that doesn't break you to build someone else, is born when you stop abandoning yourself, when you stop settling, stop explaining, stop adjusting to stay in rooms that shrink you, because your energy is sacred, your boundaries are sacred, your capacity to feel deeply, love fully, and speak honestly is not a liability. It's your superpower. The right people won't just tolerate it. They'll rise to meet it. They won't flinch when you show your shadow. They'll show you theirs. And together, you'll grow. Not because you need each other, but because you see each other clearly, softly, wholly. That's what finds you when you stop chasing. When you sit in your truth long enough, your truth starts to speak back. It says, you are enough. You've always been enough. You don't have to fight to be seen anymore. You're no longer begging for belonging. You're creating it, within yourself and around yourself. And the people who come now, they don't come to complete you. They come to walk with you. No chasing, no proving, just meeting, soul to soul. This is not the end of your story. This is the return to page 1, the page you wrote before the world told you who to be. And now, finally, you're ready to read it. If this reached something inside you, if something in you feels less alone now, then stay. Not just with this channel, but with yourself. Subscribe, and let's keep remembering, together. This was never just a video. It was you coming home.